So now example 3 is where the work kind of get a little bit more. Because if I plug in 0 for tan x over x, tan of 0 is 0. And x, if I plug in that 0 for x, I'm going to get 0. So this would be the 0 over 0 situation, the indeterminate situation here, right? So when I have that, I'm supposed to factor and cancel. In this case, I know that I'm going to factor and get one of these trig limits, right? So let's first factor out tan, right? So tan factors into sine over cosine, right? So the limit as x approaches 0 of tan x over x is the same as the limit as x approaches 0 of sine x over cosine x, because that's all tan, right? Divided by x. Because tan x is sine of x over cosine of x. Now y'all know when I'm dividing by x, when I'm dividing a fraction, I multiply by the reciprocal of the second fraction, right? That's from pre-algebra. So I'm going to have the limit as x approaches 0 of sine x over cosine x times the flip of x is 1 over x, right? So look, one of my trig limits was sine x over x. See that? So if I group that sine x is at the top with this x that's at the bottom, right, I'll have the limit as x approaches 0. Notice I'm still writing that. I don't stop writing that until I plug in. Of now sine x over x times 1 over cosine x. So when I plug in 0, I now know that sine x over x will go to 1 from my lemma, or my stuff that I told y'all to commit to memory. It's on the worksheet. And now I'm going to have, when I plug in, 1 times 1 over cosine of 0. Well, what's the cosine of 0? Well, from pre-cal, you should know that that's 1. And 1 divided by 1 is 1. That's the 1 divided by that 1. So then it turns into 1 times 1, and that's 1. So the answer to my question, that problem, was 1. The limit was 1. All right. Let's try example number 4. Same thing. If I plug in 0 for x, I'm going to get the 0 over 0 situation. Sine of 4 times 0 is 0. So sine of 0 is 0 over 0 is the 0 over 0 situation. So I'm going to have to alter that. So the limit as x approaches 0 of sine of 4x over x, what it almost looked like, the sine of x over x, right? But this is 4x, and that's x. So how do I get rid of that 4? Well, I can't really get rid of that 4, because doing so I would have to get rid of the sine. I really don't have anything to get rid of the sine with. So the only thing I can do is look at this lemma a different way. Excuse me. Sine of x. X can be anything, right? So I have the sine of anything over that same anything will go to 1 when that anything goes to 0. Does that make sense? So anything here has to be 4x. So if I had a 4 down here to make that the same anything, things would be easy. Well, I can't just plug a 4 down there. But if I did write a 4 down there, then that would be me multiplying this x by 4, or the bottom of this fraction by 4. Now, I can do that if and only if I multiply the top as well by 4. So now I have sine of 4x over 4x. Sine of something over that same something. Sine of anything over that same anything. I now know that all of that goes to 1 when I plug in 0. So this becomes 4 times 1, and that's 4. All right. Last but not least is number 5. It says cosine squared x minus 1 over x. How do I do that? Well, cosine squared x minus 1, is that equal to something? Well, in pre-cal, everything going back to pre-cal, we have cosine squared x plus sine squared x equals 1. Do y'all remember that? So if I was to get this 1 to subtract from this cosine squared x, so that's moving the 1 over here and moving the sine squared x over here, I'll get that cosine squared x minus 1 is equal to a negative sine squared x. Boom. Well, that's what I have at the top. So I could rewrite this as the limit as x approaches 0 of now all of that should be equal to a negative sine squared x over x. Well, negative sine squared x, isn't that the same as sine x times a negative 1? Because I'm squaring that, right? So that's the limit as x approaches 0 of sine x, well, negative sine x times sine x over x. Look at that. Well, let me not teach y'all like that. We'll put the whole thing over. But I know that I could group those two together. And that's going to go to what? 1. Good. So now this will be negative sine of 0, because now I'm plugging in times 1. Sine of 0 is 0, and 0 times 1 is 0. There it is. So I hope the video wasn't too shaky. Somebody came in and was trying to ask me a question while I'm videotaping. So, but you know, got rid of them quickly. All right, do your work.